Okay, so one of the key things that you need to know about price elasticity of demand and income and cross elasticity is what are the factors that affect it. So let's just look at price elasticity, and the main thing that you've got to do here is you've got to decide for yourself, well, what's going to happen when the price is going to rise or fall. You can do it either way, okay? And therefore, how much is the demand going to rise or fall in that case? So the first thing that we argue is that it depends on the number of substitutes and the ease with which you can substitute your goods. So if you've got many substitutes in a market and it's easy to switch, then as the price rises, you're going to find that the demand for that particular product will fall a lot, and so you're going to find that the PD is elastic in nature. So lots of substitutes, easy to substitute, elastic demand. Next one is the proportion of income that is spent on the goods. So in other words, if your proportion of income is low, you don't spend very much on it, and the price rises, then the demand's not going to fall by much, as it doesn't have a large effect on the consumer. So again, the PED is inelastic. Okay. Thirdly, time. Time is going to affect PED. So the argument is that in the short run, consumers aren't really able to change their shopping habits, and maybe they think the price is going to go back again. And so in the short run, if prices rise, you don't reduce your demand a lot in the short run, and so therefore it's inelastic. In the longer run, you might start to shop around and find different products, and so it's going to be more elastic in the longer run. Okay. Fourth factor is the durability. That means like how long can your product that we're talking about last. So if you've got like a gas boiler, it's very durable, it's going to go on and on for many years. Again, if the price rose, then it's not going to immediately reduce your demand, because you know your product lasts for a long time, and so you don't need to keep buying it again. And so durable products that last for a long time, have inelastic demand, not greatly responsive to changes in price. Addiction is a big one. If you have addictive goods like cigarettes and alcohol, then it's difficult to give them up, and so if the price rises, the demand again doesn't change by very much, and so addictive goods have inelastic demand. And finally, how closely is the product defined? Interesting one, this. If you've got, let's say, food, as opposed to meat, which is a subsection of food, or beef, which is a subsection again, if the product is defined widely, let's say just food, if the price rises, you can't give up food very easily, obviously, and so demand is inelastic. But if you were talking about organic beef, all right, very narrowly defined product, then if the price goes up, I think you can work it out, you can switch to organic pork, or instead of beef, you could have pork or chicken or anything like that. So in other words, if you are defining your product very narrowly, you're going to have a lot more elastic demand. Now, some people say, well, that's just because of substitutes, and so it's back to your first point. But that's the basic analysis of the factors that affect PED. What are the factors that affect IED? Remember, this is the change in demand when income changes. And first one is obviously the perception of the good, if it's a necessity or is it a luxury, okay? And secondly, if the good is perceived as inferior, your IED is negative. If it's a luxury good, IED is positive, income up, demand up, and it's large, okay? Next one is the level of income. If the level of income rises, some goods that were normal, more bought, start to become inferior. This is why it is argued that the IED for different consumers will be very different. So for some consumers who are on very low incomes, for example, when their income goes up, they're grateful that they can get a bit more bread. For other consumers, as their income starts to go up, then they buy less bread and start to switch to maybe something that's a substitute for bread, like rice or something like that. And so The IED for individual consumers is going to be very different, and so be careful about talking about the IED over the whole market, because it will be affected by the level of income that consumers have. So there we go. When you've got a low income, you might buy more white bread, but as you become richer, you might get brown, wholemeal, maybe, as I say, rice or something like that. And finally, XED is affected by whether the goods are substitutes or complements. Remember, if they're substitutes, then the XED is a positive number. Complements, it's a negative number. And also how close those substitutes or complements are. So the standard argument is, if they're very close substitutes, the XED is likely to be +1, plus because it's a substitute. If they're complements and they're close complements, it's going to be negative, but -1. So those are the factors that affect PED, XED and IED.